Welcome to Top Stories Hub. Today we've got a new story, a mystery you'll want to unravel. I never imagined my life would end up like this, confined in a stark, windowless room, devoid of warmth, with only the relentless buzz of fluorescent lights above me. I perch on a rigid cot, my fingers interlaced, not out of panic or hopelessness, but with a sharp, deliberate focus. I'm not crazy. I'm fully aware of my surroundings, the wrongs done to me, and the person behind it all, Emma, my wife, my confidante, the woman who stood before our loved ones, her hands clasped in mine, promising to cherish me through thick and thin. That was 15 years ago, an eternity. I believe she was sincere back then, or perhaps she only meant it until life veered off her desired path. I wasn't always this shell of a man, with sunken eyes, hidden away like a buried secret. Once, I had it all. We met in college. I can still see her as she was the first time, petite, vibrant, with those freckles dusting her nose she always grumbled about but I found enchanting. Emma had a subtle allure, the kind that didn't demand attention but effortlessly drew people in. I was no different. She was balancing on her toes in the campus library, straining to reach a book on a high shelf. Her face wore that stubborn determination I'd grow to recognize, the kind that showed she'd battle fiercely for what she wanted. I strolled over, stretched up, and pulled the book down for her. She turned, flashed a grin, God, that grin, and quipped, "Well, thank you, noble hero, you just spared me total humiliation." That was it. That was all it took. We were glued to each other, late-night park strolls, talks that lasted until sunrise, coffee shared under the massive oak outside the dorms. That tree became our place. It was where I first kissed her, where we dreamed about our future. We had plans, a charming house with a white picket fence, a family, kids racing around a lively backyard. I proposed in a way only she'd love, a scavenger hunt, clues tucked in all our meaningful spots, riddles guiding her through our memories until she found me under that ancient oak, ring in hand. "Will you be mine forever?" I'd scrawled in chalk at her feet. Tears streamed down her face, she nodded, and whispered yes. I never dreamed that same woman would one day engineer my ruin. After our wedding, life bloomed as we'd envisioned. We settled in Willow Creek, a cozy town where neighbors knew each other's names, where streetlights cast a soft evening glow and the aroma of freshly baked bread wafted from the corner bakery. It was idyllic. I built my career from scratch, starting with modest home sales, mastering every tactic. 5 years later, I closed my first big deal, 6 figures. That was when I knew we could have everything we dreamed of. We found the house, not just any house, the one. A stunning property on the town's edge, with rolling hills stretching endlessly. It boasted high ceilings, a stone fireplace in the living room, a spacious kitchen for the family we planned, and my favorite, my study, with rich mahogany shelves, plus a roomy garage for my sleek black Chevy Tahoe. It was the life we'd crafted together. But dreams can fade. Emma devoted herself to turning that house into a home. She had a knack for the little things, cozy throws over armchairs, vases of dried flowers, candles flickering on the sills. No room got more care than the nursery. That nursery, she poured hope into it, a crib, shelves brimming with stuffed animals, gentle pastel wallpaper. She chose bedtime stories, neatly folded tiny outfits in drawers, certain that one day we'd have a child. We tried endlessly. At first, it felt manageable, these things take time. But as months stretched into years, as doctors delivered news we dreaded, Emma changed. She grew obsessed. Each month brought a roller coaster of hope and devastation. She consulted specialists, overhauled her diet, tried supplements. Every negative test broke her a little more. I told her it was okay, that we could adopt, that maybe just the two of us could be enough, but she wouldn't listen. Her grief morphed into something darker. It coiled inside her, reshaped her. I watched the woman I loved slip away. 15 years went by. My business flourished, but it pulled me away from home. I traveled often, missed dinners, but always returned to her. I made up for it with gifts, a vintage Rolling Stones record, a handcrafted quilt to keep her cozy in my absence. She still smiled, still kissed me when I walked in, but I should have noticed. I should have seen it. A year ago, Michael and Lauren moved next door. Michael was the dean of the local college, well-liked, approachable. His wife, Lauren, owned a cleaning company and often helped me stage homes for sales. We grew close, backyard cookouts, golf at the country club, weekend trips. Emma took up golf. Michael offered to coach her. It seemed innocent. Until it wasn't. One night, I got home late, my usual routine. Park the Tahoe, let the music linger a moment before cutting the engine, stretch, breathe in the cool night air. Inside, something clattered off the coffee table. It had shifted. I furrowed my brow. Emma, why'd you move the table? She glanced up from her laptop, confused. What? It's always been there. No, it hadn't. I let it go. Maybe I was mistaken. Maybe I was worn out. Then my keys weren't where I'd left them, the kettle boiled on its own, notes in my handwriting appeared in my journal, but they weren't mine. James, Emma said one evening, her voice soft, careful, you haven't seemed like yourself. Maybe see a doctor. Just to be sure. Michael nodded. You look drained, man. You're not as quick as you used to be. Then came Dr. Larson. The visit was a haze. The questions felt staged, like they'd been scripted before I arrived. Fatigue? Yes. Mood swings? Yes. Memory gaps? Only the ones they invented. I recommend a week at my clinic, Larson said, jotting notes. Just rest, no work, no stress. Emma squeezed my hand. It'll help, sweetheart. I almost bought it. Then came the final strike. The night before I was due to go, I made dinner, grilled steak, roasted potatoes. Emma baked a cherry pie. We ate with Michael and Lauren. We laughed, sipped wine, and then I went to my study. Her laptop was open, a chat window glowing. Asterisk Michael, I can't stop looking at you. You're amazing, asterisk Emma, hush, love. James has no clue, asterisk. My world shattered. I charged downstairs, heart racing. So this is what's going on. I flung my phone at her. Explain this. She didn't blink. You're seeing things again, dear. And just like that, everything collapsed. Within minutes, orderlies were at the door. Emma's voice was calm as she told them, he's unwell. He's a danger. I resisted, but no one cared. They hauled me out of my home, my life, into this asylum. They stripped me of my name first. James, correct? The orderly asked, snapping a plastic band on my wrist. Not anymore. Now I was a number, a file, another entry at Crestwood Psychiatric Center, a place where people vanished, their voices smothered by red tape and pills. This wasn't just about discarding me. Emma had woven something far more elaborate. This wasn't mere betrayal, it was a meticulously crafted trap. She'd spent months, maybe years, setting it up. I just hadn't seen it. I sat in the intake room, staring at drab gray walls, my wrist tender from the orderly's grip in the van. Across from me, Dr. Larson leaned back, the faint scent of pipe tobacco on his jacket. He skimmed my chart like he'd memorized it. Long work hours, he murmured, eyes elsewhere. A pattern of exhaustion, memory slips, agitation. He looked up, expecting a reaction. I gave none. That was the game, right? Push me to crack, to seem unhinged, to confirm their narrative. So I stayed silent. Larson watched me, tapping his pen on my file. Your wife says you've been under strain lately. I balled my fists under the table. You mean my ex-wife? His mouth twitched into a half-smile. Emma still sees herself as your wife. She's concerned about you. I wanted to scoff, but I held back. I knew the drill. One hint of anger, and it'd be noted, shows paranoia and hostility. Emma had me cornered. This wasn't just a mental health stay. It wasn't the retreat she'd pitched before they dragged me out. No, this was a life sentence with no end date. I'd seen enough films to know how these places operated. Question anything, and they'd call it delusion. Fight back, and you're violent. Skip the meds, and you're non-compliant. Every escape route was sealed before I arrived. I swallowed the bile in my throat. How long am I here for? Larson scribbled. A month for assessment. Then we'll review. His tone, will review made it clear my life was now his to judge, my freedom hinging on his verdict of my sanity. A month, they said. But I knew the truth, if Emma got her way, I'd never leave. Emma was always methodical. She never hurried. That was her strength. She must have started months ago, sowing seeds of doubt, playing the worried wife. It began subtly, my keys misplaced, the coffee table nudged slightly, my planner's notes altered. I blamed stress, fatigue, maybe carelessness. Then came the hints. James, you seem worn out. You've been forgetting things, haven't you? You're overworked, love. Maybe you need a break. They made me question myself. That was her brilliance, not a blunt strike, but a gradual undermining of my reality. Then she looped in Michael, my closest friend, the guy I'd trusted for years, who dined at my table, shook my hand after golf, shared beers. He was her accomplice. I've seen it too, he said lightly one day. You're off, James. That was enough, a nod from someone I relied on. And then Dr. Larson, a psychiatrist Emma likely paid off, ready to label my file with whatever she needed. One visit. A few ticks on a form, a diagnosis that didn't need to be true. Within days, Emma had it all. She called the authorities, claimed I was hallucinating, erratic, aggressive. She probably wept on the phone, the perfect distraught wife. The second I stormed downstairs with her laptop, yelling in front of Michael and Lauren, I played into her hands. That was her cue. Minutes later, I was gone. Inside Crestwood, the asylum, because that's what it was, no matter their polished brochures, was a machine of control. Everything was regulated, wake at 6 a.m. Meds at 7 o'clock, therapy at 9 o'clock, group sessions twice daily, lights out at 9 p.m. The drugs weren't for healing, they were for obedience. Some patients shuffled the halls, minds dulled into compliance. I wouldn't be one of them. I started faking the pills, tucking them under my tongue, sliding them into my sleeve when eyes were elsewhere. I had to stay alert. Every day, I watched, listened, learned, the orderlies, the doctors, the schedule. I figured out who held power and who might take a bribe. Most importantly, I found out who I could trust. That's when I met Diego, my first ally. Diego was an orderly, but different. Quiet, observant. He didn't treat patients like cattle. One night, while others were distracted, he leaned close as he adjusted my straps and muttered, "You don't fit here." I didn't flinch, cameras were everywhere. But I held his gaze, and in that fleeting moment, I knew he saw the truth. Days later, he whispered again, "Wealthy families pay Larson to lock people up. Usually, it's older women, kids want their inheritance, so they're deemed unfit. A guy like you? That's unusual." My heart pounded. This wasn't just my story. It was bigger. Diego was right, dozens of patients, mostly elderly women, poised and polished, still carried traces of their old lives. They weren't mad. They were inconvenient. Like me. That's when it hit me, Crestwood wasn't a hospital, it was a vault for those families wanted gone. There was only one way out. I had to break free. The plan takes shape. I bided my time. I observed. I studied the orderlies' shifts, their habits, which ones slacked off, and which ones stayed vigilant. Diego would assist me, but he laid it out plain: one wrong move, and you're headed to the treatment room. The treatment room, I'd already heard the cries echoing from there. I wasn't about to find out what went on inside. I had one chance, and if I blew it, Crestwood would be my forever home. I used to think betrayal was a single, gut-wrenching moment, a revelation that tore through your world like a blade. I was mistaken. Betrayal is patient. It's gradual. It's a quiet, insidious force that unravels you bit by bit, eroding your sense of truth until you doubt everything you've ever known. That's what Emma did to me. That's what Michael did to me. And I let them, because I trusted them. That trust is gone now, incinerated, buried, replaced by something fiercer, fury, raw and unrelenting. The instant I saw those messages on Emma's laptop, the words "James has no clue," something in me broke. The showdown. I charged downstairs, my pulse thundering so loud it drowned out everything else. The world blurred, my focus locked on the woman who vowed to stand by me and the man who once called me his closest friend. They sat at the dining table, sipping wine, chuckling at something Lauren had said, acting so perfectly normal, as if they hadn't just demolished my entire existence. I didn't pause. I snatched my phone, pulled up the messages, and slammed it down in front of Emma. Care to explain? The room fell silent. Michael's expression barely shifted, a glint of calculation in his eyes, quickly concealed. Lauren glanced between us, bewildered. But Emma, she didn't even blink. She let out a weary sigh, almost annoyed. "James," she said gently, shaking her head, "you're seeing things that aren't there." My hands balled into fists. "Don't play that game. I saw the messages. You and Michael. I know it all." Michael spoke up, leaning back casually, his tone infuriatingly steady. "James, maybe you should take a seat. You're not acting like yourself." That was the moment it hit me. This wasn't shock. This wasn't fear. This was orchestrated. They weren't caught off guard. They weren't grasping for lies. They'd anticipated this. They'd wanted it. This wasn't an affair stumbled upon by chance. This was a trap, and I'd walked right into it. The call. Emma reached for my hand, her touch light, condescending. "Sweetheart, you haven't been well. We need to talk about." I jerked my hand back. "Don't touch me." That's when she pulled out her phone. "I didn't want it to come to this," she said softly, shaking her head like she was devastated by what she was about to do. Then she dialed, and my stomach sank. 911. "Yes, I need help. It's my husband. He's not himself. He's having an episode." I stepped back. "Emma." She turned away, her voice trembling with fake fear. "I don't know what's wrong. He's shouting, throwing things. Yes, I think he's a danger." Michael stood, approaching me, hands raised like he was soothing a rabid dog. "James, calm down. It's okay. Just sit." But I couldn't. I knew what was happening. I'd seen it in thrillers, in true crime shows. This wasn't just about their affair. This was about erasing me. This was the final piece of Emma's scheme, and I just handed her the perfect opening. The detainment. I don't know how long it took, maybe 5 minutes, maybe 10, but when I heard the knock, when I saw the red and blue lights flashing through the curtains, my blood ran cold. A police officer stepped inside, 2 more behind him. "Sir, we received a call about a domestic issue." "It's a lie," I snapped, my voice sharp, frantic. "She's making it up. She's framing me." Emma let out a stifled sob. "Please, officer, I love my husband, but he's unwell. He's been forgetting things, getting violent. She's lying. I yelled, but that was exactly what she wanted. The officer glanced at Michael, seeking confirmation. Michael nodded gravely. I've been concerned about him too. We all have. That was it. Two officers gripped my arms, their hold firm but practiced. Sir, you need to come with us. I struggled. No, you don't get it. I'm not insane. They're setting me up. Emma covered her face, feigning tears. Lauren stared, eyes wide, frozen. And Michael smirked, a fleeting, smug look I caught just before the cuffs snapped onto my wrists, and they dragged me out. Crestwood Psychiatric Center. The drive is a blur. My mind was a tempest, anger, disbelief, terror. But when we rolled up to the towering, barred gates of Crestwood, reality slammed into me. This wasn't a temporary hold. This wasn't a mix-up. This was permanent, a facility for the mentally unstable. Orderlies were ready for me. They didn't see a man wronged, they saw a patient who belonged there. A nurse fastened a bracelet to my wrist. You'll be fine, Mr. Walker, she said softly. We'll take care of you. I yanked at the restraints, my voice hoarse. I'm not crazy. She gave me a sympathetic smile, the kind reserved for someone too lost to know they need saving. I scanned the sterile walls, the locked doors, the cameras in every corner. I thought of Emma, back in our house, in our bed, smiling. I thought of Michael, at my dining table, drinking my wine, laughing. I thought of Lauren, silent, knowing the truth but staying quiet. I thought of the life I'd built, my business, my home, my name, and how, in one night, it was stolen. Because Emma planned it. Because I never saw it coming. But I wasn't done. Not yet. Not even close. Betrayal forges something new in a man. It sharpens him. And Emma had just created a force she couldn't control. When the door closed behind me, I knew I wasn't walking out, not tomorrow, not next week, not unless I clawed my way out. Crestwood Psychiatric Center wasn't a hospital, it was a prison for those who trusted the wrong people. People like me. The cuffs were gone, replaced by a thick plastic band on my wrist. It bore my name, James Walker, along with a patient number, a room number, and a barcode that made me feel like a product, not a person. Two orderlies flanked me, built like bouncers, their faces blank. One, with a shaved head and a scar on his cheek, led me down a long, antiseptic hallway. This is your new home, Mr. Walker, he said, his tone flat. I barely registered his words. All I could hear were the sounds, faint screams from somewhere deep in the building, the soft shuffle of slippers on tile as patients in identical white scrubs drifted past, the hum of cameras swiveling overhead, their red lights blinking like predatory eyes. And the smell, bleach, disinfectant, and something heavier, stale, like the air had been trapped here too long. I clenched my fists, the bracelet cutting into my skin. I don't belong here. The orderly motioned to an open door. Room 216. Get comfortable, he said, nudging me inside. The first night. The room was cramped, a single bed with a stiff, plastic-coated mattress, a chair bolted to the floor, a narrow, barred window letting in just enough daylight to taunt me with the world outside. A camera watched from the corner. I sat on the bed, my body sore from the earlier struggle. The door stayed open, but I knew it wasn't an invitation to leave. So I listened. I'd always been good at reading situations, at decoding systems. That's how I built my real estate business, spotting patterns, knowing when to push, when to wait, when to act. Now, I needed to master this system to have any shot at freedom. Outside, patients moved like shadows, some staring blankly, others muttering to themselves. A few looked like they'd been here too long, their eyes hollow, their frames frail. Then a voice cut through. Fresh meat. I turned. A man sat on the bed across from mine, rocking slightly, his dark eyes sharp and piercing. His hair was cropped close, his face etched with fatigue, but there was life in him, something still alert. "You don't fit in here," he said, his tone low, almost amused. I sized him up. "Neither do you." He gave a dry laugh. "Yeah, that's what everyone thinks at first." I leaned forward. "How long you been stuck here?" "Too damn long," he said with a shrug. "Name's Diego." I nodded. "James." Diego pointed at my bracelet. "You think they're just gonna let you walk out?" I exhaled, steadying myself. "I'm not planning on staying." Diego's smile was grim. "That's the spirit. The reality of Crestwood." The next morning, I got the rundown of the daily grind: 6 a.m. wake up, 7 a.m. meds, 9 a.m. therapy, noon lunch, barely edible, afternoon group sessions, useless, 9 p.m. lights out, no exceptions. The pills were the worst. A nurse handed me a paper cup with 2 blue tablets and 1 white one. "Swallow," she said, eyeing me closely. I stared at the pills, already seeing their effect on others: slow steps, empty gazes, bodies shuffling like puppets. I put them in my mouth, faked a swallow, then, when she looked away, tucked them under my tongue and slipped them into my sleeve. Diego caught me later in our room. He grinned. "Clever." I sat on the bed, stretching my aching muscles. "What if they catch you?" Diego's grin vanished. "They drag you to the treatment room." I frowned. "What's in there?" He didn't answer right away, just stared at the wall, his jaw tight. "Trust me, you don't want to know." Dr. Larson's ploy. I didn't meet Larson. Dr. Larson until my 3rd day. They brought me to his office, dimly lit, smelling of old books and something faintly sharp, like metal. He sat behind a heavy wooden desk, hands clasped, peering at me over his glasses. "How are you holding up, James?" I stayed silent. He smiled. "Still fighting, I see." He flipped through my file, casual, almost bored. "Emma says you were struggling, memory issues, paranoia, growing aggressive before you got here." I gritted my teeth. "You know that's not true." He tapped his pen on the desk. "Do I?" I leaned forward. "She's paying you, isn't she?" Larson didn't flinch. "Your wife just wants what's best for you." I scoffed. "Is that what she told you?" He sighed, setting my file down. "James, we can make this simple or difficult. Cooperate, take your meds, attend sessions, and we might talk about releasing you in a few months." A few months. My gut twisted. That was the plan, not to lock me away forever, but long enough for Emma to strip me of everything: the house, the money, the business. By the time I got out, if I got out, there'd be nothing left. I leaned back, forcing calm. "Fine." Larson raised an eyebrow. "Fine." I nodded. "I'll play along." He studied me, searching for deception, but he wouldn't find it. I wasn't lying. I was playing his game. Diego's warning. That night, as I lay staring at the ceiling, Diego whispered, "They've got eyes on you." I turned my head slightly. "I know. One mistake, and you're never getting out." I took a deep breath. "Then I won't make one." Diego watched me, then nodded. "You're sharp," he muttered, "but not sharp enough to do this solo." I met his eyes. "So help me." He exhaled, rolling onto his back. "Let's see if you make it through week 1. He shut his eyes, but I didn't sleep. My mind churned. Because I knew something Diego didn't, I wasn't just going to survive Crestwood. I was going to tear it apart. The first rule of escaping a place like Crestwood wasn't strength, speed, or even courage. It was patience. I learned that the moment I stepped inside, saw the hollow-eyed patients drifting through the halls, heard the screams leaking through the vents at night. Those who tried to bolt too early didn't get another shot. They were hauled to the treatment room, and they came back broken. The system. For 2 weeks, I watched. I studied the orderlies, who cut corners, who stuck to the rules, who might take a bribe. I memorized the doors, which used keys, which had keypads. I observed the patients, who could be trusted, who was too far gone, who might rat me out the second I moved. It didn't take long to see Crestwood ran like clockwork: 6 a.m. wake up, 7 a.m. meds, 8 a.m. group therapy, 9 a.m. individual sessions, noon lunch, 3 p.m. rec room, 6 p.m. dinner, 9 p.m. lights out. Every day, identical. That was their flaw. Routine breeds complacency. Routine makes people careless. And that was my opening. Diego's offer. Diego didn't buy my talk at first. "You sound confident," he said one night, leaning against our room's wall, "but I've seen guys like you. They all think they'll outsmart the system." I raised an eyebrow. "Guys like me? The ones who think they're bigger than this place." He shook his head. "They always get caught." I didn't argue. I let the silence hang until he broke it. "What's your move?" I glanced at the door, making sure no one was near. "You said there are weak points in this place." Diego nodded. "A couple." I lowered my voice. "Point me to one." He stared at me, his face unreadable, for a long moment. Then he exhaled. "Tomorrow. Rec room." The rec room discovery. The recreation room was the closest thing Crestwood had to freedom. Shelves held worn books, a battered chessboard sat on a table, and an old TV droned with sitcom reruns no one laughed at. But that wasn't why Diego took me there. He guided me to the back of the room, past patients staring blankly at the screen, past 2 nurses chatting by the door, to a storage closet. He stopped. I frowned. "What's this?" Diego tilted his head toward the wall. "Behind that closet, there's an old maintenance tunnel. Used to link to the east wing before they sealed it off." My pulse quickened. "It's still there?" Diego nodded. "Locked. But ancient." Ancient meant rusty hinges. Ancient meant brittle locks. Ancient meant a shot. "How do we get in?" I asked. Diego's grin was sharp. "Now you're thinking." The trial. Diego wasn't quick to trust. Before he'd fully commit to helping me, he needed proof I had the nerve for this. So he set a challenge. It wasn't complex, just one task: swipe a key. Not from a nurse or a doctor, but from an orderly. The worst of them, Malone. Malone was a piece of work. He thrived in this place, relished the control, savored watching people crumble. I'd seen him before, smirking as patients were hauled to the treatment room, humming a tune while passing those too doped up to stand straight. Even before Diego pointed it out, I knew Malone had a key. I just hadn't figured out where he kept it until I started watching him closely. Malone had a routine. Every night after dinner, he'd slip into the break room for a cigarette. Same pattern, like clockwork. And each time he sat, he did the same thing: reached into his pocket, pulled out his key ring, and set it on the table next to his pack of smokes. For a few minutes each night, those keys were just sitting there, unguarded. I told Diego. He gave a slow nod, his expression guarded. "So what's stopping you?" "The heist." I waited until the 4th night. Patience wasn't just about spotting the chance, it was about ensuring it was the right one. The break room was cramped, with a half-broken vending machine and a window letting in the faint glow of the parking lot lights. Malone sat at the table, cigarette hanging from his mouth, his chair tilted back lazily. And just like always, his keys were right there. I strolled in, calm as could be, grabbed a plastic cup from the counter, and faked filling it with water. Malone didn't even glance my way. Perfect. I turned, staged a stumble, and let the cup drop, water splashing across the floor. I muttered under my breath, crouching down. Malone groaned, annoyed. "Are you serious?" I moved fast, my fingers snatching the keys while my other hand grabbed the cup. I stood, gave him a sheepish shrug, and walked out. No pause. No second glance. Just like that, the key was mine. The escape blueprint. Diego was waiting back in our room. I tossed the key onto his bed. He picked it up, turned it over in his hand, and let out a low whistle. "Well, damn," he said, a grin creeping across his face. "Maybe you've got what it takes." I sat down, letting out a slow breath. "We need a strategy." Diego nodded, spinning the key between his fingers. "And now that we've got this, we've got something to work with. The schedule." The next day, Diego broke it down. Step 1, reach the storage closet. We'd need a diversion, something loud enough to pull the nurses and orderlies away. Step 2, unlock the tunnel entrance. Use the stolen key, hope it still fits. Step 3, navigate the tunnels. Steer clear of the east wing, too many secured doors. Aim for the old delivery exit instead. Step 4, get through the final door. That was the wild card. Was it still locked? If it was, we'd have to force it open, and fast. The whole operation had to wrap in under 5 minutes. Any longer, and the place would go into full lockdown. There was no room for error. I knew what happened to those who got caught, and I wasn't about to join them. Diego leaned back. "You ready for this?" I didn't blink. "Let's make it happen." And just like that, the clock was ticking. The night before. Sleep didn't come easy. Not because I was scared, fear had long since burned away, replaced by something colder, more precise, resolve. If this failed, there'd be no do-over. I'd never get another shot. Crestwood wasn't just a psychiatric facility, it was a system built to erase people. If they caught me trying to bolt, they wouldn't just toss me back in my room. They'd drag me to the treatment room. I'd seen what happened to those who went in there. They came back sluggish, silent, or not at all. I wasn't letting that be me. So I lay there, eyes fixed on the ceiling, my breath slow and steady, waiting. Waiting for dawn. Waiting for battle. The diversion. It had to be loud. Crestwood ran like a well-tuned engine, and the only way to break free was to jam the gears. That's where Riley came in. Riley was one of the volatile ones. He spent his days pacing the corridors, mumbling to himself, yelling about things only he could see. The nurses kept him doped up, but when the meds wore off, he'd erupt. Diego and I had been watching, knew exactly what triggered him. So, at exactly 10:57 a.m., Diego strolled into the common room, sat across from Riley, and said calmly, "They're coming for you." Riley's head jerked up, eyes wide. Diego leaned in. I overheard them. They said today's the day. The treatment room. That was all it took. Riley exploded. He hurled his chair across the room, screaming, flailing at invisible enemies. A nurse rushed over, trying to soothe him, but Riley pushed her back, knocking over a tray of medical tools. Chaos erupted. Alarms wailed. Orderlies sprinted in. Patients scattered. And while everyone's attention was on Riley, Diego and I slipped out. The maintenance tunnel. We moved fast, sticking to the hallway's edges, dodging cameras, weaving past staff racing toward the uproar. Diego led the way. We reached the storage closet and slipped inside. It was tight, packed with cleaning supplies and dusty files. The sharp scent of bleach stung my nose as I exhaled. Diego pulled the stolen key from his pocket. "Here we go." I nodded. "Do it." He slid the key into the old maintenance hatch and turned. Nothing. Diego swore softly. It's jammed. I stepped up, grabbed the rusted handle, and pulled hard. The door didn't move. We were out of time. The alarm still blared, but soon they'd noticed 2 missing patients. I gritted my teeth, braced my feet, and yanked with everything I had. The lock gave way. The door creaked open, revealing a dark, narrow tunnel, thick with dust and damp air. Diego looked at me. Move. I didn't hesitate. I stepped in, and we shut the hatch behind us. The race against time. The tunnel was tighter than I'd imagined, forcing us to hunch as we moved. Pipes lined the ceiling, leaking water onto the concrete floor. Dim emergency lights flickered, barely illuminating the path, like they hadn't been touched in years. We hurried, our footsteps echoing. Diego was a few steps ahead, his breathing even, his posture tense. "Where's this take us?" I asked. "Delivery exit," he muttered. "If we're lucky." I nodded, keeping my focus. Every step was a ticking clock. We had minutes, maybe less, before they realized we were gone. Then, a scuffling sound ahead. Diego stopped. I froze. A voice cut through the dark. Well, well. My stomach sank. Malone. The last person we needed. He stepped into the faint light, arms folded, his usual sneer plastered across his face. "Thought you'd just slip out, huh?" Another orderly blocked the path behind him. Diego cursed under his breath. Malone sighed, shaking his head like a disappointed coach. "You really thought we didn't know about this tunnel?" My fists clenched. We'd been played. The fight. Malone stepped closer, cracking his knuckles. "Should have known you'd be a problem." I didn't wait for him to swing first. I charged, slamming my shoulder into his chest, knocking him off balance. He stumbled, swearing, his fist swinging wide, but I was quicker. I ducked, pivoted, and drove my elbow into his jaw. Diego moved in sync, tackling the second orderly, slamming him against the tunnel wall. I grabbed Malone's collar and threw him to the ground. He groaned, stunned but not done. I didn't stick around to find out if he'd get up. Diego and I bolted. The exit. The final door loomed ahead, a rusted metal slab with emergency use only faintly etched under layers of grime. Diego reached it first, tugging the handle. Locked. Damn it. I glanced back. Malone was staggering to his feet. The other orderly was closing in. No time. I spotted a rusted pipe on the tunnel floor, grabbed it, and swung with all my strength. The lock shattered. Diego kicked the door open, and a blast of cold night air hit us. We were out. The pursuit. No time to savor it. Behind us, Malone was yelling. The facility's alarms shifted to a sharper pitch, not just a warning now, but a full lockdown. I didn't stop. Diego ran beside me, our feet pounding the wet pavement, the woods ahead our only cover. We didn't need to outrun them forever, we just needed to vanish. Diego veered toward the trees. I followed. Branches snapped against my face, the scent of wet earth and pine filling my lungs as I pushed forward. The sirens grew fainter. We kept running, never looking back. Freedom, but not secure. An hour later, we stopped, miles from Crestwood, buried deep in the woods, the vast sky sprawling above us. I hunched over, hands on my knees, gasping for air. Diego leaned against a pine, letting out a sharp breath. "We pulled it off," he said under his breath. I met his gaze. No. We'd broken out, but we weren't in the clear. Not while Emma still held everything. Not while I had nothing. I wiped the sweat from my face, my mind already racing to the next move. Running wasn't enough. I didn't just want liberty. I wanted payback. Fleeing wasn't enough. Staying alive wasn't enough. Emma had stripped me bare, my home, my company, my freedom. And she'd done it with that perfect smile. She thought she'd won, thought she'd buried me so deep in Crestwood I'd never claw my way out. She was mistaken. Now it was my move. Diego and I kept a low profile for days, drifting between small towns, crashing in seedy motels, eyes glued to news reports, piecing together intel. My name was still splashed across headlines: the fallen entrepreneur who lost his mind, the dangerous husband who fled a psychiatric facility. Emma had painted me as a threat to the world. But she had no clue what kind of threat I could be. She'd caged me. Now I was coming for her. The scheme. I couldn't just stroll back into my old life. Not yet. Emma had too much influence, too many allies in her corner. I needed to flip the script, to dismantle her world from within. That's where Claire came in. Claire had been married to Michael for years, living in his shadow, watching him deceive, manipulate, and betray. She'd suspected Emma for months but lacked proof. Now she had me. And I had everything needed to ruin them. We met under cover of night by the pier, the water gleaming like polished obsidian. Claire was on edge, arms folded, her breath clouding in the chilly air. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. I stepped closer. "You know the truth, Claire. Help me prove it." She wavered. "If they find out, they won't." I held up my phone, Emma and Michael's messages still stored. "This is just the start. I've got more, bank records, transactions. They siphoned my money through shell companies, sold my properties with forged signatures." Claire's eyes widened. They really did all that?" I nodded. "Every bit of it." She paused, then let out a shaky breath. "Okay," she said softly. "I'm with you." And just like that, I had my insider. The opening move. Emma's life was built on image, the flawless wife, the heartbroken victim, the thriving entrepreneur. She'd cloaked herself in wealth and prestige, convincing everyone she'd come out on top. So I set it ablaze. First, the financial leaks. Claire had access to Michael's files, his emails, his hidden accounts. Piece by piece, we collected proof of fraud, tax evasion, and money laundering. Then we fed it to the press. Overnight, the headlines shifted: entrepreneur framed, explosive evidence rewrites the story, psychiatric scandal, who's the real criminal? Emma's name was everywhere. Michael's too. For the first time since she framed me, she was on the ropes. The call. Emma reached out to Claire first. "They're spreading lies," she snapped over the phone. "You know that, don't you?" Claire played her role perfectly, keeping her voice steady, guarded. "Sure. But what if someone's really digging? I'll deal with it." Emma's tone was firm, but I knew that edge. I'd been her husband for 15 years. She was rattled. I needed to push her further. So I sent the final jab, an anonymous email to her personal account, *I know it all. You thought I'd break, but I didn't. I'm coming back, *, no signature, no threats, just enough to make her squirm. She bit. The showdown. 2 nights later, she pulled up to our old house, my house, alone. I was ready, watching from the shadows as she stepped out of her car, glancing around, uneasy. For the first time since this began, she was scared. She approached the porch, hesitating, then reached for her phone. Before she could dial, I stepped into the light. "Looking for me?" She gasped, spinning around. I saw it in her eyes, shock, disbelief, fear seeping in. "James," she whispered. "You." I edged closer. "Thought I was gone for good, didn't you?" Her hand shook. "You're supposed to be locked up." I smirked. "Guess you should have made sure." She swallowed hard. "What do you want?" I tilted my head. "Wrong question, Emma." She blinked. The real question is, what's left for you? Her breath caught. She knew the answer, nothing. Her business was crumbling, her reputation was ash, Michael had vanished, and the media was tearing her apart. And now I was here. She straightened, masking fear with defiance. You've got nothing on me. I pulled a thick envelope from my jacket. 12 forged documents, fake psych reports, financial fraud, and the cherry on top, Michael's signed confession, selling you out. Her eyes widened. You're bluffing. I shrugged. Test me. For the first time, she looked truly terrified. I let the silence hang, letting her feel the weight, letting her grasp what was coming. You destroyed my life, I said, voice low, steady. Took it all. And you thought you'd walk away clean. She shook her head. James, please. We can fix this. I laughed, a real laugh. You still don't get it, do you? I stepped closer, voice dropping. There's no way out for you. No deals, no games. You're done. Her lips parted, but no words came. For once, she was speechless. I handed her the envelope. 2 options. She took it, hands trembling. 1, turn yourself in, take a plea, confess. Maybe get a few years instead of life. She swallowed. And the other? I leaned in. I bury you so deep even hell won't find you. She flinched. She stood there, breathing fast, staring at the evidence in her hands. Then she exhaled, a long, trembling breath, and I knew I'd won. The fall of Emma Walker. The next morning, Emma walked into the police station. The news hit within hours, Emma Walker charged with fraud, conspiracy, and psychiatric abuse. Michael followed soon after, nabbed trying to skip the country. Crestwood Psychiatric Center was shuttered. Dr. Larson's license was yanked, and every patient wrongfully held was set free. Including me. Aftermath. The house was still mine, legally, financially. Everything stolen was restored. But I didn't go back. Too many ghosts. Instead, I left town. Claire came along. We never defined what we were or what lay ahead, but we both knew, the past wasn't where we belonged. Emma was behind bars. Michael was gone. And me, I walked away free. Not just from Crestwood, but from all of it. Revenge wasn't about reclaiming what was lost. It was about moving on, knowing they'd never escape their consequences. Emma was locked up. Michael was a fugitive. Crestwood was gone. I had it all back, the house, the wealth, the business. But it didn't feel complete. It wasn't enough that Emma had fallen. It wasn't enough that Michael had fled like a coward. I needed to finish it for good. I needed to ensure they could never rise again, never breathe easy. That meant one final play. The last move in the game. Loose ends. Even after Emma's arrest, questions lingered. Who else had helped her? Who had signed the forged papers? Who had buried Crestwood's secrets? I knew there were more players, people who'd profited from my downfall. I had to find them. With Claire's help, I dug through every record, every transaction, every email Emma had touched. That's when I found him. A name tucked in the documents, absent from the trial, Dr. Larson, Emma's psychiatrist, the man who'd signed my commitment order, who'd locked me away without a second thought. The man still walking free. That didn't sit right. Hunting Larson. I knew where he was. The media had exposed Crestwood's corruption, but Larson had dodged the worst. He had connections, enough to slip away unscathed. But he wasn't untouchable. He was hiding. His practice was gone, his reputation ruined, his money dwindling. Now he was just a disgraced fraud in a cheap apartment on the city's outskirts, pretending he still had power. I waited until dark. Then I knocked on his door. The face-off. Lar owing to the instructions, the response cannot be completed due to reaching the token limit. If you want me to continue from where it left off or provide a shorter version of this part, let me know. That's all for today's tale on Top Stories Hub. Hit subscribe, leave a comment, and tell me what you'd like to see next.